Estás viendo Canal América, televisión dominicana para el mundo.
Time for True Show is sponsored by the Office of Dr. Bernard Fialkoff, a periodontal, dental implant and laser specialist in New York City, for over 40 years. Dr. Fialkoff was honored by the International College of Dentists and Pierre Fauchard, and received the Presidential Lifetime Humanitarian Honor from the White House. Call us at 718-229-3838.
Sometimes life can be so damn hard. You don't know where to go. Everything keeps falling apart. Yeah. You try to do your best, but only God knows that you've given everything you've got, but the world takes you down. You just keep moving on. Let your fears.
Welcome to A Time for True Show. I'm your host, Dr. Bernard Fialkoff, and it's a pleasure to be back with you today. We're getting near the end of summer. We have a few weeks left, and it's a very enjoyable time of the year. And when we get together with family and community and we take vacations and we relax, we get a chance to look and actually see what's going on in our lives and partake and rejoice and get the benefits of the good that we have because of our relationships, because of our responsibilities with family, with society, but also we get a chance to take a look at how to resolve our problems, because life has problems. You know, we all go through different periods where there are different things that confront us, different situations, conditions, which don't go exactly the way we want. And our world seems to be confronting a lot of that as we move on. And why? Well, if you were to take your car and take its wheels off, you wouldn't wonder why you didn't get anywhere going down the road, even though you were giving it a lot of gas and, you know, making a lot of noise from your engine. You wouldn't have any wheels to turn to go and take your car down the road. Yet for some reason, we don't apply that very simplistic solution to why we're having so many difficulties in our world, but we're ignoring something very vital, and that's our women, our mothers, our wives, our daughters, our grandmothers, the part of our world that brings discipline, that brings family structure, that brings love, that brings someone who cares for you when you need that attention. The women in our lives. And so today's show is dedicated to those women who give us so much and who actually brought us into the world. Without them, we wouldn't be here. So let's first start out with a video of a conference that we held. And you know that I'm president of the Foundation for a Drug-Free World America's chapter. And once a year, we hold the United Nations Conference. And this past March, it was during the 68th session of the United Nations. And it was the empowerment of women. The United Nations found it very important to do a whole entire segment of the United Nations session, the 68th, on women and solving what's going on in our world. And Buddha, engineer, let's put on the video of the United Nations, March 22nd, Drug-Free World.
We welcome all of you, distinguished leaders from all sectors, professions, and nations to this conference. And we thank the United Nations for allowing us the time to be here during the 68th session of the United Nations regarding women. Why women? It's so important because women create the family. Women create the discipline. Women create the future, and our world is suffering from lack of empowerment. So I think we should give a round of applause to the United Nations for recognizing the importance of women. Our group believes in the necessity for the empowerment of the UN Sustainable Goals, for women, for justice, for right to education, for a sports, team-oriented, disciplined philosophy that's life. And thereby we have sustainable communities, the UN Sustainable Goals. In this technological world, one would be hard-pressed to identify a societal ill more dangerous than drugs, more insidious, destructive. Oh, it seems okay. It's organic. It's natural. But the science doesn't show that. I'm a physician of 42 years, a surgeon in implants and in periodontal surgery. I see the effects on my patients in healing. That's just in healing. How about their minds? So this erodes morality. It erodes the entire community. Justice, gender equality, social consciousness, they're not possible in a drug society.
So there you see where we were on March 22nd and how the United Nations globally was very concerned with what's been happening in our world. And so recently, we had a march in Washington, D.C., the Million Women United for Families March. And it was on August 23rd, just a few days ago. And it was organized by very, very aware women. And they wanted to celebrate and commemorate Martin Luther King's civil rights movement, civility, civilization, collaboration, the ability to trust and have respect for each other. And there you see the image on the screen of that date that just passed on Friday of last week. And we'd had that at the Lincoln Monument. And why the Lincoln Monument? Well, because Latisse Porter, who's one of the executives of that board, the Million Women United March, realized that Lincoln was also another great leader with human rights, with civil rights. And during our Civil War, which was over civility, you know, sometimes we don't pay attention to the words that we utilize. But that word civil, civilization, civility, the way we treat each other is so important. Because how do we treat our women? What is it that we're doing for them? And Buddha, if you will, let's put on the first video. We had a march, and as Martin Luther King marched, we were marching also, and we'll show you a short excerpt of the march. Go ahead with that video, please, engineer. And we were marching down both sides, and many, many people were there from all different parts of the country who took their time away from their jobs, away from their families, but to celebrate women and to ring a bell, a warning bell, that we need to do better in protecting them, in safeguarding them, and making sure they have opportunities. Women of all races, of all religions, of all creeds, of all cultures, of all nations of origin. If you think about the animal kingdom and you think of the lion with his mane, and he's very strong. Yet you see that the lioness protects the family cubs, and when she roars, that lion leaves and goes to find food for their den of cubs. And that's the nature, that's the woman lion, the lioness. Well, sometimes we ignore the simplicities of life, but those are our women. I remember my mother very well. She wasn't very big physically, but boy, did I listen to her. And if I didn't, boy, did I hear from her and about what I was doing. And I owe her a lot. She gave me discipline. She gave me push. She gave me love. And we all get that from our mothers, our wives, from our grandmothers, and the love of our daughters. It's beautiful. It's part of our lives. And so we had a talk in front of the Washington Monument overlooking the mall. It's a beautiful area. And engineer, if you will, let's put on the next video of that talk in front of the Lincoln Monument with the Washington Monument in the background. Let's go ahead.
For me in front of President Lincoln to talk about human rights, civil rights, to be here. We marched today in honor of Martin Luther King, August 28, 1963. I was a little boy. And I love what I saw on that television set in 1963. We talked about civil rights, civility, civilization. What does it mean? It's the foundation of what we see here live. Humanity, mutual trust, and respect. I'm president of a nonprofit drug education chapter called the Foundation for a Drug-Free World, the Americas chapter. It's an international organization run in Los Angeles by Jessica Hoffman. And I'm lucky enough, like Matisse honored me to be here, that she honored me to run that Americas chapter. So we get to represent humanity. 112,000 Americans died last year of drugs. 115,000 were shot and killed or injured. 443,000 women were raped or sexually abused. If it was our daughter, my daughter, your daughter, it would mean more than a number. Thank you. What's wrong with our society? What's going on? Why is this happening? Well, they did a study, a global study, and they found the solution to reaching Martin Luther King's dream. You know what that solution was? I see it in front of me. Women. Mothers. Grandmothers. I don't know about you, but I listened to my mother. My father was big, my mother wasn't big, but boy, she put fear into me. So women. What do women bring? They bring love. They bring discipline, but they bring understanding and they bring pride. And with that comes change. So today we're honoring women. You who are here. Peace. All of you. Why? Because you are the crucible of civilization. I'm just saying that? No. I just have my eyes open and I know that you had children. And you had children. And so you held those children in your womb. And you nourished those future generations in your bodies. Your level of responsibility is already known. We don't need public relations. But we have got applause for all the women, I think. What's wrong is in our world, we lost sight of the fact of the importance of a woman. When that woman lion comes around, that macho lion with a mane, and she goes, roar! You see the guy take off. And leave her with the cubs, and he goes out and gets some food for her. Flip the page. Now, she's so big as a being that she decides she wants somebody to play with. So she picks a guy, a good guy. And together, they create a family. They create mankind because she allows them to, and which is so important what she spoke about, and why we need to protect our young women. Why? Because our society is spinning. These people are watching the monument, but they hear you. They should be here. Because our society is being lost. We have cell phones and artificial intelligence, but our morality is disappearing every day.
Yes.
Right? We have money, but where's the culture going? I don't know where.
Where's the compassion?
Where exactly? We go to outer space, but we can't see the hunger, the violence, and the anguish in our communities, in Chicago, in New York, in Los Angeles, in Birmingham, wherever it is, there are people. What do we need? We need you. We need the women who made the world possible. As men, I gotta tell you, I love my wife. I'm lucky. When she's not around, I suffer. And then I realize I better help people because I suffer, it hurts. There are people suffering right now, but the women can save it. The women can make that dream of Martin Luther King come true. I see children on that mountaintop. They're playing right now because Latisse started the dream. I see where's the Spanish person? Okay, here. See that guy quiet. I see races, all the races in that heaven. I see guys with beards in the mountaintop. I see young white boys with black boys and yellow boys and green boys on the mountaintop. Martin Luther King was talking about the world.
So there you go. And it was a wonderful meeting, conference, event, great energy, humanity, collaboration of all of us. Not one single group, but humanity, mankind. It was a beautiful conference. And so women and women's rights are basically human rights. The right to live free from violence, to decide what they want, to choose who they want to be with, to be given a fair exchange for their work. And if they're in the house, to be recognized for making civilization possible. Across our world today, women and young women, girls face discrimination because of their sex, because of their gender. Every country is different, every culture is different. We don't have the level that we should have globally. These problems include domestic problems, violence, sexual abuse, lower pay, lack of a proper education or access to an education, lack of access to adequate health care. And this is why our Drug-Free World chapter and the Million Women United for Families chapter got together in Washington, D.C., because we want women not to be the effect of that violence, the effect of that prejudice. Engineer, let's play a beautiful video for United for Human Rights Organization International on that very subject.
The world I see is fair and free, where people can travel wherever they please, and children can eat and have shoes on their feet, and not be afraid when they walk on the street. It's not like there has to be rainbows and bunnies. The streets full of people are dancing like dummies. But freedom to live, to learn, and to play, to just be yourself, and think your own way. The road I see may sound crazy to you, but hopefully, someday, you'll see it too.
That's United for Human Rights International, great organization. You should check out their site, beautiful videos. So women should have that right to control their bodies, to control who they want to be with, to have sexual relationships with, to have a family with, to have equal access to health care, to choose if, who, and when they want to marry, not at the choice of someone else, which happens in parts of the world, in many parts of the world. And to decide and have the power when and with who they will have their children. They should be able to live without fear of violence strictly because they're a woman, including rape and violence, which, as you saw in the talk I gave you, 440-something thousand rape and sexual violence occurrences with women in our country last year. They shouldn't be having forced pregnancy, forced abortion, forced sterilization, and many other things that I don't even want to go to, which are horrific, which are happening across our globe. So they should have the right of who and what they want to have as a family and who to marry and have with them in that relationship. Let's put on another beautiful video about this from Human Rights International.
She came up and kissed me one day.
It was an impulse. I just grabbed him and I kissed him on the lips and I ran away.
Because I was like 20 years old. It's not like something you talk about marriage all the time.
But I asked for her number. She wouldn't give me her number.
No, I think he liked me first, for sure, because...
She's hot.
We met in a grocery store.
We were in a class together.
Came up to me one day, says, I got this perfect girl for you.
He was a good dancer, but not too good.
Like he was my soulmate.
She's my queen. Of course, I'm the king.
I said, I have to ask you something. And she said, what? And I kneeled down, and
she was laughing and trembling. She gets so embarrassed.
What did I say? I said, will you marry me or will you be my wife?
Will you be my wife?
He proposed to me on my birthday.
And she said, yes. Are you sure?
Sorry.
And then you see youthforhumanrights.org, and you can access those human rights videos to help you if you'd like, to help with other women, to help with human rights in general. So women should have also a right to move. Sometimes they're not allowed to have that freedom to move around freely. They're kept captive as a slave in many different ways. Some are through violent oppression and fear of not being violently attacked or hurt or injured, which is very common across the world. They should have the right to have passports, which is not allowed in certain countries. Recently, for example, in Saudi Arabia, finally there was a successful campaign just to allow women to actually drive, which had been previously banned for many decades. And you say, well, that can't be, Dr. Fialkoff, you're making it up. But no, This is what goes on in other parts of the world. And if it was you in that part of the world, you'd want someone in this part of the world to do something. I think that's a rule we should start looking at, is to create for others what we want to create for ourselves. So the world is created by all of us, turns out to be an equal and just place. We can complain or we can actually do something in a positive effort, situation, and condition with our volition of actually doing something effective, not with words, but with actions. And we need to take a look then at giving women that right of movement in many different ways. And let's play another beautiful video from the Human Rights Organization, please.
Where would I go if the world had no limits? If I could defy all boundaries? If I could ride the wind, where would it take me? If all roads were open to me, where would I go? If I could fly, if I were free to move.
As we come to the end of this show, you may say, well, what you're saying is true, Dr. Fialkoff, and it's a beautiful thing, but it's your philosophy. But let me say something to you that's not my philosophy, is that the United Nations has published statements, you can go on their site, that gender equality and the empowerment of women and young girls, as in the 68th session of the United Nations this March, is the key to sustainable development, something that actually continues, is sustainable. Sustainable development, sustainable growth. We're looking at problems of our economy. Well, how can you have growth when the very stability of our families is not present? With peace, how can you have peace when you don't have stable family life, where there's not love in the home, there's not discipline in the home? Peace is not possible. Security is not possible. You have anger, you have hate, you have fear, you have despondency, you have war. Research has shown this, and what I'm saying to you to be the case. I bid you to take this show seriously, because society only gets better, as research has shown, when women's rights are upheld. Each one of us was born from a woman's womb. We wouldn't be here otherwise. And so we owe our debt of life to those women who brought us into this world, who nourished us and carried us when we're too weak to do something. Now, if they're weak or they need help, it's time for us to nourish them and protect them as they did for us, and to do this in a serious fashion. Let's give our daughters, let's give our wives, our mothers, our grandmothers, and great-grandmothers the respect that they merit and deserve. They held us safe when we were too little to do it ourselves. We owe them a debt. We owe them respect and honor for what they did for us. Let's protect them and make them safe, and we will see that the problems of the world will start to dissipate and disappear. And one day we'll look back and say, how could we have been so blind? Thank goodness we woke up in time. Have a very good night. We'll see you on the next episode of A Time for Truth show.
This show was sponsored by A Time for Truth Foundation Incorporated as a community service.
Sometimes life can be so damn hard. You don't know where to go. Everything keeps falling apart. Yeah. You try to do your best, but only God knows that you've given everything you've got, but the world takes you down. You just keep moving on. Let your feet